As I'm sure a lot of you already know, Donkey Kong Country 2 just got re-released on the Nintendo Switch Online service last week, and seeing as the game that got me into reviewing SNES games was the original Donkey Kong Country, I thought I should write a review for the second installment in the series as well. As with the original game, Donkey Kong Country 2, subtitled Diddy's Kong Quest, was developed by a UK game studio known as Rareware at the time, and was published by Nintendo for release on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The game would eventually release first only about a year after the original Donkey Kong Country on the 21st of November 1995 in Japan. The first game was released first in the UK, followed by a North American release, then Europe, then Japan. But it would seem that Nintendo had other plans this time around, releasing Donkey Kong Country 2 first in Japan, followed by North America, saving Europe for last even though the game was developed by a UK studio. It was only a difference of about a few weeks, but it does make you wonder why they decided to stagger their release dates in such a way. Donkey Kong Country 2 did of course sell very well, eventually becoming the 6th best-selling game on the SNES. It sold 5.15 million copies worldwide, which is only about half of what the original game sold, but that by no means makes it a worse game. In fact, I much prefer Donkey Kong Country 2. It made so many improvements to the original that I honestly was surprised at how much better they can make a great game like Donkey Kong Country. But before we talk about that, let's talk for just a moment about the history of the studio that made Donkey Kong Country 2, Rare, and their work with Nintendo. Rare was founded in 1985 by two brothers named Chris and Tim Stamper, who had previously owned a different game company called Ultimate Play the Game. Not the name I would have picked, but that's just me. While Ultimate Play the Game focused on releasing games for a variety of different home computer systems, Rare was founded with the goal of making games solely for home console gaming, specifically on the Japanese Famicom. Rare impressed the higher-ups at Nintendo by reverse engineering Famicom games and showing off a few tech demos at their headquarters in Kyoto. Nintendo was so impressed by this that they gave Rare an unlimited budget and told them to make games for the NES. They would then go on to make several classics like Battletoads and RC Pro-Am. During the era of the SNES, Rare developed a technique for pre-rendering 3D models into an SNES cartridge, which is what we see used in the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. Nintendo liked this so much they decided to buy a 49% stake in the company, making them one of Nintendo's second-party developers. However, this friendship wouldn't last forever. Even with their amazing track record making tons of instant classics for the SNES and N64, Nintendo for some reason didn't want to buy Rare outright. Maybe it was because of their sometimes rather adult-themed games, or maybe they just didn't like their development philosophy. Maybe they didn't think another company would be interested in buying Rare, but whatever the reason was, it definitely cost Nintendo and Rare a ton of money in my opinion, and also probably cost the gaming community many more great games as Rare was eventually bought out by Xbox, who locked them in a basement never to be heard from again. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but the quality of the games they make has definitely fallen drastically since the buyout. Wow, that was a long sidebar. Today we're here to talk about Donkey Kong Country 2, a game from the golden age of Rare's partnership with Nintendo, so let's forget about the ups and downs and just enjoy the ride. The story of Donkey Kong Country 2 is very similar to the original Donkey Kong Country in that it is, in true Rare fashion, not very robust. All we're told is that Donkey Kong has been monkey-napped, by an evil crocodile pirate named Captain K. Rool, who bears an uncanny resemblance to the main antagonist of the original Donkey Kong Country, King K. Rool. It's never stated outright who he is or how he's related to King K. Rool, but we can assume that they are very closely related in some way due to their similar names and almost identical appearance. It's him. They're the same guy. Captain K. Rool demands the Kong's banana hoard in exchange for the safe return of Donkey Kong and takes him away to the top of his castle on Crocodile Isle. Instead of giving up their precious bananas, Diddy Kong and his girlfriend Dixie Kong decide to take Donkey back by force and set off on a journey through the menacing Crocodile Isle. As for the gameplay of Diddy's Conquest, it is at once very similar and very different to the first game. Diddy and Dixie handle very similarly to the way that Donkey and Diddy did in Donkey Kong Country, in that they run at around the same speed, jump to the same height, and react to inputs very quickly. However, Rare wasn't about to just sit back and make the same game over again, so they added in a variety of new ways to move around, like Dixie's hover move that can be performed by holding down the jump button, the ability to hang from and jump off of hooks, and of course the ability to carry and throw one another through the use of the A button that both Kongs now possess. These seemingly small changes to the Donkey Kong Country gameplay formula make the game feel completely different to the original in my opinion, and honestly a lot more interesting and fun too. As with the original, both Kongs attack by pressing the Y button once, holding down the Y button makes them run as well as pick up items, and as always B performs a jump. Also similar to the original game, Diddy and Dixie can ride on a number of animal friends that they meet at different points throughout the levels of Donkey Kong Country 2. But in this game, Rare allows them to transform into these animals as well through the use of animal friend barrels. What's the difference, you might ask? And there really isn't one. The only thing really being that instead of Diddy and Dixie getting knocked off when you take a hit, you just lose a hit point as usual. There are a few new rideable animal friends in the form of Rattly the Rattlesnake and Squidward the Spider that both provide new ways to progress through levels, making the game even more varied when compared to the original. Also, in Donkey Kong Country, the animal friends were treated more like optional bonuses hidden within various levels, whereas in Diddy's Conquest they are required in order to move on in a lot of situations. I honestly prefer this use of the animal friends because I didn't really feel that there was much benefit at all to finding them in the first game. I definitely have to applaud Rare for their ability to recognize things that could be improved with the first game and then make them work better in the game's sequel, like making the two Kongs have different abilities in Donkey Kong Country 2, so they have to switch based on preference and what the current level demands. In the original, it was almost like just having 2 hit points because Donkey and Diddy had almost exactly the same moveset, but in Diddy's Conquest I was constantly thinking about who I should use to handle my current situation. Another big place that Rare changed things up dramatically with Donkey Kong Country 2 was the level design, so let's move over to that. The original Donkey Kong Country was filled to the brim with exciting and yet unseen ideas for a 2D platformer, and I really wasn't sure if Rare was going to be able to one-up themselves going into Donkey Kong Country 2. But oh boy was I wrong. This game takes the concepts and design philosophy that made Donkey Kong Country so great and amplifies them tenfold. Well, tenfold might be a bit much, but it does present so many new ideas, obstacles, and ways to progress through levels that I don't think anyone can say that this is nothing more than a rehashing of the original Donkey Kong Country. It's so much more than that. One level there's wind blowing around making it hard to move. The next level you're somehow in a beehive filled with honey that you get stuck in when you touch it. Next thing you know you're flying through a thorn briar as a parrot trying to avoid getting stuck. This variety is Donkey Kong Country 2's greatest strength in my opinion, and the fact that Rare can make a sequel this different to the original game while still maintaining the core mechanics of Donkey Kong Country is extremely impressive. It's just such a fun game. Another way that Rare differentiated Diddy's Conquest from the original game was through the use of collectibles and exploration. The quote-unquote collectibles in the original Donkey Kong Country were just bonus rooms that didn't really get you anything, but in this game Rare added actual trackable collectibles in the form of DK coins and Creme coins. DK coins are usually hidden somewhere out of the way in a level or are rewarded to you for performing some sort of special action like timing your jump correctly onto the final flagpole. There's only one per level and you can tell if you've gotten it because the DK logo will be shown next to the name of the level on the overworld map. Creme coins on the other hand are scattered randomly through the game's levels, some having only 1 and others having 2 or 3. There's also no way to check if you've gotten all of a certain level's Creme coins as far as I could tell, and that was honestly a little disappointing. I had to resort to guides towards the end because there were just so many levels and I definitely wasn't going to go search through every single one, not knowing if I even needed to get a coin from that specific level. It could have been handled a bit better, but it's really a rather small complaint. I should have mentioned earlier that Creme coins are in essence this game's version of bonus rooms and that you get them from completing trials in various rooms hidden throughout each level. Contrary to the original bonus rooms that were just collect a bunch of bananas, Creme coin trials are all different, ranging from having you clear the room of all enemies to collecting all the star tokens in a room. I can't stress enough how much of an improvement these rooms are over the original. When I found a bonus room in the original game, I would just think, yay, more bananas. But now I would go in always expecting to face a fun little timed minigame that would break up the action of each level. Definitely a great idea on Rare's part. Creme coins are used as a toll at Club of the Kremlings kiosks that will allow you passage into the Lost World. The Lost World is this game's version of, say, the Special Zone from Super Mario World. It contains 1 extra hard level per world, with the final level being unlocked after you collect all 75 Creme coins and clear all 5 Lost World levels. A good way to reward exploration to make the game even more fun than it already was. There is an alternate ending to the game that you get when you beat the final boss of the Lost World, so I definitely recommend aiming for that sweet 102% if you're going to be playing Donkey Kong Country 2. There are also a few other collectibles that you can find in each level, like banana coins and of course the Kong letters that, similar to the original game, give you an extra life if you collect them all. The banana coins are just a currency used in the many shops of Donkey Kong Country 2 that are run by various members of the Kong clan. They include Swanky Kong's Game Show, where you can earn more lives by correctly answering questions, Wrinkly Kong's Kong College, where you can save your progress and learn various tips about the game, Cranky Kong's Monkey Museum, where you can get tips about hidden collectibles, and of course returning from the first game, Funky Kong's Funky Flights that allow you to return to previous worlds. There are a lot of new and memorable Kongs in this game, and I really like that about it. These collectibles really made me want to replay levels if I wasn't able to find everything the first time through, and while I was playing each level, I noticed that I was taking more detours hoping to find a DK coin or a hidden barrel, something I rarely did in the original game. This excellent balance between exploration and platforming makes Diddy's Conquest one of the best platformers out there in my opinion. If I had to complain about one thing though, it would probably be that I constantly found myself with too many lives. By the end of the game, I think I had almost 75 lives, and I don't even think I did anything special. The game just throws lives at you like candy. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it just took away some of the tension that the original game had, in my opinion. If you watched my review of the original Donkey Kong Country, you probably know that one of the biggest gripes that I had with the game were the bosses. They were extremely basic, reused models of other enemies, and just weren't that fun. And I think Rare also realized this because the bosses in Diddy's Conquest were such a huge improvement over the first game. Each one for the most part had a unique design, and the fights were all totally different. In the first game you just avoided their very basic attacks while jumping on their heads repeatedly until they died, But in this game, you're throwing TNT barrels and cannonballs over the place, dodging giant falling eggs and fireballs, and swinging around on hooks and ropes. There's even a boss you fight completely as Squawks the Parrot and have to hit his weak point with the pellets he can fire from his mouth. Some bosses even have different phases, like King Zing the Wasp boss that goes invincible and shoots out stingers after you hit him twice, or Cleaver the Sword that starts slashing at you after you damage him. I also have to mention how great the Captain K. Rool fight was. I like the original King K. Rool fight a lot, and I really like this one as well. Maybe even more than the original, because there were just so many different attacks and patterns that Captain K. Rool throws at you. It was just a blast. I do have to say though that the DK barrel that they give you in between each phase, coupled with Dixie's ability to hover and the general overabundance of lives, made the Captain K. Rool fight much easier than the original King fight in my opinion. It still took me a good amount of tries to beat, but wasn't nearly as unforgiving as the original, which could honestly be considered a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you ask. You do fight him again in the Lost World, and that fight was actually pretty tough, however it was much too short in my opinion. There's only one phase where he throws everything he's got at you, and it's definitely challenging. I was just hoping for a little bit longer of a secret boss fight. Next up, I of course want to talk a little bit about the visuals of Donkey Kong Country 2. The game was completed only a year after the original's release, so it obviously looks fairly close to and uses a rather similar style to that of its predecessor. However, nearly everything in this game is new art. The only things having been carried over from what I can tell, being some of the Kong models and some of the Animal Friend models, but that's to be expected. Everything else, all the backgrounds, most of the enemies, the overworld, they're all new art. And that really amazes me. I can't believe Rare was able to make this much in such a short time. But not only is it mostly new, it's honestly better art as well. The backgrounds specifically are so much more varied and colorful when compared to the original, and that makes it so much more fun to play in my opinion. Another complaint I had with the original game was the abundance of recolors of a lot of the enemy models like the basic Kremlings, and yet again Rare addresses this problem and goes beyond what I would have expected them to do. There are so many new enemy designs and they are all super fun. There are a lot of Kremlings this time as well, but instead of simply recoloring the base model, they made a ton of completely new models. Big ones, small ones, weird ones, and even buff ones. They're for the most part all pirate themed to go along with this game's story and setting, and that really makes them super interesting in my opinion. I like the little guys with the cutlasses and the pirate hats because they just look so piratey. Something I noticed about this game is that it seems like Rare was able to put more of their own flavor into it than they could with the original. When I think of Rare games, I think of wacky characters, amazing settings, and just overall fun designs. The first Donkey Kong Country of course has these things as well, but I think Donkey Kong Country 2 has them more to the level and standard that we expect to see from Rare. Why that is, I can't say, but what I can say is that it makes for one fun adventure. As with my review of the first game, I like to end my review of Donkey Kong Country 2 with what initially drew me to the series, its music. The soundtrack was composed by a longtime composer for Rare games, David Wise. He of course also worked on the original Donkey Kong Country, but this time he worked solo, composing the game's entire soundtrack by himself. You wouldn't know it from the quality, as it meets or even exceeds that of the original game. Literally every single track in this game is a banger. I've seriously had the title screen song stuck in my head for days at this point, and I'm not even mad at all. It's just such a fun soundtrack, and I'm sure from now on, whenever I hear one of these songs, I'll instantly know what game it's from, much like many other Rare soundtracks. Do yourself a favor and go listen to Donkey Kong Country 2's soundtrack. In fact, just play the game. I promise you won't regret it. Donkey Kong Country 2 took the formula Rare created with Donkey Kong Country and expanded upon it in all the right ways, making it truly one of the greatest sequels, platformers, and games of all time in my opinion. It far exceeded my expectations, and it's just a really fun game from start to finish. I definitely enjoyed my playthrough of Diddy's Conquest, and honestly I think I have to add it to the list of my favorite games ever made. I know it was a little longer than usual, but I hope you enjoyed my review, and thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did have a good time, give the video a like, it really helps me out. I release retro game reviews every Wednesday, and I also plan on doing more retro game unboxing videos going forward as well, so if you're interested in those kinds of videos, or you just want to show your support, consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ack out. Oh, conquest like conquest. I just got that.